there, everyone. Welcome to the Bird's Nest Podcast. I'm Joe Donahue. Thank you so much for joining us. The Eagles' first preseason game is upon us. Training camp is still in full swing. And, oh yeah, Howie Roseman's still doing Howie Roseman things. So to talk about all of the stuff that has happened recently, we're joined by somebody who you're probably familiar with over the last couple of years. He is the former Afternoon Drive host over at WIP, most recently at PHLY. You can check him out on Twitter and all the socials at Jon Marks Media. It is Jon Marks. Jon, thank you so much for taking the time.
Now of DoorDash and Uber Eats, and I mean that's where I'm going to be headed soon. What's up, Joe? Good to join you, buddy. What's up?
Absolutely, Jon. All right, well, let's start actually just by jumping right into probably the biggest news that's come out of the NovaCare complex over the course of the last couple of days, is that trade that Howie made. The Eagles traded for Jakorian Bennett, claimed him from the Raiders in exchange for somebody who was on the practice squad last year in Thomas Booker. Bennett does have some starting experience, and he's put up some good numbers in his second year, but when you saw the news about this trade, Jon, what was it that crossed your mind? What were your thoughts about this trade?
I mean, I was surprised because I like honestly I've never heard of him before the trade, right? I mean, there's a lot of corners, there's a lot of teams out there, AFC West. I didn't recall him. So immediately you go and you're looking, you're like, all right, this guy actually looks like pretty good, right? Like he's played, he has some experience. And then you look at what the Eagles gave up. Listen, Booker, that's not a sack of potatoes that you gave up there, right? You gave a guy that has some experience, that's a former draft pick, that certainly isn't a guy that was at risk being cut. But I guess the Eagles, when you look at their defensive line, there's a lot of bodies there. And they figured, okay, well, he's expendable because we really probably need another corner. So here's what it tells me. It tells me that when they're looking at the cornerback position, Adoree Jackson and Kelee Ringo, they may be saying to themselves, be nice to have another outside corner. So like, I don't want to go crazy and sound alarms and say, they're worried about their corner play. But Howie Roseman's a great GM because he's anticipating like, hey, what happens if there's an injury? What happens if Ringo doesn't get better as camp improves? What happens if Adoree Jackson has one foot in the grave of his football career, right? So it's probably a player that they liked in the draft, that they followed. And Pete Carroll comes in, new head coach. We see this all the time in the NFL. If he's not a guy that he drafted, he doesn't have the same type of if he's running a different defense, maybe they don't think that he plays exactly the way that they want him to play. He's had some injury issues. So, I mean, it's a great pickup. It's a great pickup because a lot of people, I think, downplayed the loss of Darius Slay. Like Quinyon Mitchell was great last year. It's pretty nice to have Darius Slay starting across from you when you're a rookie. So Slay's not there this year. He was an experienced above average corner. So I didn't anticipate a trade coming like this, but like Howie's the best executive, one of the best executives in the NFL for this reason. And you had to figure that even though publicly they're telling you Kelee Ringo's the starter, we signed Adoree Jackson. If they know it might be a problem, they're anticipating that right now. So I'm actually happy that they did it right now because there's still enough time in camp. Get some preseason games, get him on the field a little bit, and see what happens.
Absolutely, yeah, and I was right up there with you too. I had to Google Jakorian Bennett when I saw the the tweets come over saying, "Hey, what's going on? Like, who is this guy?" But yeah, I mean, there was definitely some of that there, and I really found that just calming. Like, okay, there is a need, there's a recognized need, and you bring somebody like him in there who, I mean, say what you will about the other two guys, they don't have really the same level of starting experience that Bennett has, and that can really help out that room, just generally speaking.
Yeah, like when I look back on Andy Reid, one of the things that used to drive me crazy about him, and I'll give you two examples. Mark Simoneau, when they allowed Jeremiah Trotter to leave, Mark Simoneau, they kept saying, he's the starter, he's the starter, he's the starter. And then he wasn't good. And then they didn't have a backup plan. So now you have to play with him. And then the year that the year that they didn't have a punt returner, and it was like they drafted Jeremy Bloom. Jeremy Bloom's our punt returner. Jeremy Bloom's our punt returner. And then he didn't even make the team. And then they put poor Greg Lewis back there, who had never fielded a punt, and they had a turnover in the first game. So Howie Roseman, instead of being worried about, oh, well, like, you were wrong, Howie. What do you mean? You were saying Keely Ringo is going to be the guy. No, it's all about making sure that they're going to be set. And the last thing you want is having to have a revolving door cornerback because you can't find a guy. So it's another guy they can throw in there that, like you said, has starting experience, has experience in playing. And here's the other thing. Get him on this defense, get him with Vic Fangio, get him with these coaches, and then you're going to feel a lot better about it. So interesting move by Howie.
Yeah. And even getting him with the Eagles training staff too, right? Because, I mean, the Eagles, we saw Jahad Campbell. He's limited, but the reports coming out of NovaCare Complex are basically he's limited pro forma, right? Like he's doing all the stuff that you would expect him to do. And I mean, that injury almost being a non-factor through training camp. You put somebody, I mean, that says a lot about the Eagles training team, and it possibly could even go far as to benefit Bennett if he tries to recover from his own injury too.
Yeah, Campbell's interesting. I remember after they drafted him, the first press conference when they talked about him, and it was very clear to me they were envisioning him as an edge rusher. And he may start out playing linebacker and not be an edge rusher and maybe more of your traditional linebacker. But just the way they talked about him, because Campbell, when he was recruited and when he first went to college, it was as an edge rusher. And then because of injury and then because of the roster down there, they had to move him outside the linebacker. And that's really kind of where he stuck. But the Eagles are probably envisioning him as an edge rusher, maybe a guy that can do a little bit of everything. And again, put Vic Fangio in charge and figure that out. But another weapon on defense, and we know what this defense did last year. They have to replace a couple of guys, Milt Williams, Josh Sweat, but they've added a couple of guys, Algileri, and I mean a couple of fastballs that they added to the mix to where. Like, because the one thing you can't have is if you're the Eagles, you can't have a drop off and get into the quarterback. And I love the secondary, and I think they're great. They're young and they're studs and everything else, but you need to make sure you're getting to the quarterback. And the Eagles certainly have made that a priority in the offseason.
Absolutely. Yeah. And just given how much the Eagles rely on that front four to be able to generate the pressure where you're able to do that. That's really something that rattled, like, even in the Super Bowl, right? Like that was an impressive getting at Patrick Mahomes. And that was not an offensive line really, I mean, to laugh off, so to speak.
Yeah. I mean, like looking at it in hindsight, we should have seen it coming. Now, like, still, they were whatever the score was in the third quarter, and I've been an Eagle fan like you my whole life, and is this really happening? Are the Eagles really dominating the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl? Is this like this doesn't happen to us? But it just shows you how dominant that defense was last year, and like you said, the Chiefs' offensive line really wasn't up for that challenge. But I think one of the other things about Booker is Ty Robinson has looked really good as a rookie. And again, when they drafted him and you looked at what he was, and it's like, all right, this dude's 6'5", and he's like 300 pounds, and you look at everything that he does, and the Eagles, and with their analytics, and I know when you talk about analytics in sports, a lot of people kind of are like, analytics, but the Eagles have used analytics, and they were probably one of the first franchises in the NFL to really look at analytics, and the different testing that they do, at the combine that they pay very close attention to. Robinson was off the charts and all of that stuff. So I think you can also look at Ty Robinson as a reason why they were more than willing to move off of Booker, because I think you're going to see a contribution from him year one. And when Andy Reid came here, he made it be known that he's going to build along the offensive line, and that's been something the Eagles have done since Andy Reid, and they do it better than anybody else, right? So now it's like, all right, you can allow a guy to leave in free agency, and you have somebody waiting in the wings in Tyler Steen, and you're not expecting a drop off, right? And like look at the four other offensive linemen; they're Pro Bowlers and they're making a ton of money. So you got to be able to have the guy that slides in and doesn't make a lot of money. We saw Vitae leave and make a lot of money before. So Steen now wants to be the next guy that becomes, when he becomes a free agent, teams are saying, "Hey, let's go out and get him." So they're really rolling right now. They really have it figured out.
Yeah. Yeah, and especially with Steen too, right? You look at him; he's had to compete for starting roles the last couple of years. Lost to Mekhi Becton most recently. This could be the year for him too. I mean, like this, and it seems like from some of the reports that I've seen coming out of training camp that it does seem like this could be the year where he finally breaks through that backup, waiting in the wings kind of role, and finally gets a starting position on the line.
Yeah, they came in and they made that trade for Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, and they brought in the former first round draft pick, who again I guess was somebody that they liked when he was coming out of the draft, and he was a bust. Kenyon Green
Yeah.
in Houston, but all indications, and honestly, I haven't been following it as closely as I'm not doing day-to-day sports media right now, but just everything that I'm reading from all of the people is that Steen very much has taken command of that job, and that's certainly his job right now.
As you look at the storylines coming out of training camp, what are the ones that are most interesting for you, and the ones that you're checking up on?
Yeah, I mean, the last time the Eagles won a Super Bowl, I don't think any of us really knew how to act or react to that, where we were just in the clouds, you know what I mean, for so many months. But now we're enjoying the Super Bowl. But I also think the organization learned a lot from the last Super Bowl win coming back the next year. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, I think last time, if he would have been on the team last time, they would have kept him. But chemistry, running his mouth a little bit, wanted to be paid more. They wanted to kind of nip that in the bud and get rid of him. So really, I mean, I don't know how this team isn't a top 2 or 3 team in the NFL this year again, if not for injury or just that hangover after a Super Bowl season, right? Like, the way that they just bulldozed the rest of the league last year, there's that one thing that's not tangible that you know it's there that you can't put your finger on. That's just the year after the hangover. Saquon Barkley's been celebrating that Super Bowl since the day it was over, right? And he's in great shape and everything else. But if you look at what happens after winning a championship, guys enjoy it. You should enjoy it, but it's so hard. And the Chiefs winning back to back is amazing. The Patriots doing that before that, but it's so hard to come back. You think that you have that edge. You think that you're coming back with the same type of mentality. It's really, really hard to do. And so we'll see where they are with that. Nick Sirianni's done a great job with it. Jalen Hurts is acting like he didn't even win a Super Bowl. But honestly, Joe, the one thing that when I look at this season, when I look at the storyline of 2025, is what can Saquon Barkley do in his second act in Philadelphia? Because it is going to be impossible. When you look at players, when you look at running backs, what they've done the year after having seasons like Saquon Barkley, every single one of them has taken a significant step back, a step back to a significant step back. You can Google it and you can see what happens to all of them. It's so hard. The number of carries, the usage to come back next year and have the same type of impact. And the fact that Saquon Barkley has been nicked up, he has an injury history to him from his days with the Giants. So trying to figure out, how do the Eagles kind of combat that? Do they not give him as many carries? Do they dial it back a little bit? Because I think that you're going to see much more out of the passing offense this year, and you're going to see much more out of Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, because last year they took a back seat because what they were doing with Saquon Barkley was working. Why mess with it? They won a Super Bowl. I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball like they did last year, and they're going to have to throw the ball.
Yeah, and I do think that there's definitely going to be some implementation of some of the other guys, right? Like we've seen Will Shipley over the last little while. I remember seeing in the preseason games last year. seeing Will Shipley go off, and then obviously in the regular season when he got some snaps as well. Um, I really liked what I saw out of Will, and I'm reasonably certain that he's going to be called upon to provide a little bit of that extra sort of support for Saquon. Because I mean, 2,000 rushing yards in a regular season is going to take a toll on you. It doesn't matter whether or not you're Saquon Barkley or you're somebody fresh out of college. You're going to have a physical toll put on you. So to have that sort of extra support in the running back room, I think is going to be really key for the Eagles' continued success in the running game.
So Eric Dickerson ran for 2,100 yards. So the next year he ran for 900 less yards. AP went from 2,097 to 1,266. Jamal Lewis, 2,000 to 1,000. Barry Sanders, 2,000 to 1,500. Derrick Henry, 2,000 to 937. Terrell Davis, 2,000 to 211. Chris Johnson, 2,000 to 1,300. And then you got to go back to O.J. Simpson. Hey, like, so, some of it's just that, like, all right, so if I'm a defense and I'm a defensive coordinator, I know Jalen Hurts, he can beat you with his arm. I'm going to sit back and let Saquon Barkley and that offensive line just plow over me? No, they got to defend the Eagles differently. So it's a matter of if Saquon staying healthy, if he's not there, it significantly changes their offense. So if you have to play Will Shipley, they signed A.J. Dillon, right? If you have to play these other guys, your offense is completely different. Mm-hmm. So let's see how they manage it and let's see how they come out this season.
Yeah, absolutely. And we saw a little bit of that too in the Super Bowl, right? Saquon Barkley was a big non-factor through Super Bowl 59. So the fact that the Eagles were able to adapt to that and be able to take advantage of other threats was really huge.
Yeah, and the rest of the media and et cetera, playing right into the hands of Jalen Hurts and this Eagles offense by more or less just not giving respect where it's due to Jalen Hurts. And like, honestly, I was a guy that didn't think Jalen Hurts could be a difference maker at quarterback. And he's proven me wrong. And that doesn't mean that I think Jalen Hurts should be running the ball or should be throwing the ball 40 to 45 times a game. I don't believe that he's that type of quarterback. When he needs to, he can. He's proven that. But this offense, this team is at their best when Jalen is able to do a little bit of everything. Run the ball, pass the ball. When you're running the ball with this offensive line, like, it just seems like everybody in the NFL, the media, I mean, just seems like they're like, no. Like, you have to win the way that we want you to win. We want you to win by throwing the ball. This is the NFL in 2025. You can't run to win championships. You can't run and play defense to win championships. Yeah, you can. The Eagles just proved it. But they also proved that when they need to throw the ball, they can. And this year they may need to throw the ball. I mean, think about it. When you look at AJ Brown's numbers in Tennessee to right now, these guys, and I think they deserve a lot of credit for it, they've taken a step back from what they could be doing. And the selflessness is right there. The ego is there. And like Jalen Hurts, you think Jalen Hurts wants to hear everybody saying like, well, he's being carried by his team. He's like, if it wasn't for that roster, Jalen Hurts wouldn't win anything. Guess what? What team in the NFL wins Super Bowls without having a great team around them or great coaching around them, right? Like, it's such a double standard and it's so tired. But even after being the Super Bowl MVP, they're doing it all over again. So I think it plays into the Eagles' hands. It's real motivation that can be used as bulletin board material by Nick Sirianni, who has done a great job with that stuff in the past.
Absolutely. Yeah. That bulletin board material is, I mean, just keeping receipts, right? Just keeping those receipts.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
We do have Eagles action at Lincoln Financial Field tomorrow. Probably not going to be a whole lot to write home about simply because the Eagles have a history of not using the starters at all during preseason games under Nick Sirianni. But as you look at that, and especially as we consider the fact that in just a couple weeks, the Eagles are going to be down to a 53-man roster, do you have any expectations for this game beyond seeing just folks hopping on the field and getting a couple of drives in there and seeing their like doing something for their family? Because I mean, each of the guys on the roster are definitely fighting for a spot in that 53.
Yeah, I mean, some of the guys that are fighting for a spot to make the roster, it's always fun for me as long as you go into it with the expectations of, especially in today's NFL, if the guys aren't going to play, the guys aren't going to play. I'll tell you one thing that I like about not doing sports radio right now, Joe, is not having to have the conversation with people or make up an opinion of, well, the starters should be playing. No, the starters should be playing. What are they doing? No, the starters don't need to play. The veteran starters don't need to play. We don't need to put them in there. It's fine. But yeah, like some of the wide receivers, it's interesting because after Devontae and after AJ Brown, what you've seen previously, and I know they have Jahan Dotson, but he hasn't really showed you a whole heck of a lot. So if you have an AJ Brown injury, which we've seen, if you have a Devontae Smith injury, which you've seen, wouldn't it be nice to have a wide receiver that can step in and you're saying to yourself, like, all right, this guy's really good, right? Like he's going to be, Dotson's going to be gone. He's going to be the third wide receiver. Can Johnny Wilson take that next step? I know Aeneas Smith has been doing very well. Terrence Marshall, as I run off the depth chart here on ESPN.com. So you look for those guys. You hope people don't get injured. Tanner McKee getting in there. Dorian Thompson Robinson. Just give me football and I'll watch it. Give me Eagles football and I'll watch it. That's about it.
That is fair, John.
Kyle McCord. How could I forget Kyle McCord? Yeah. So there's plenty of things to watch tomorrow night.
Absolutely. All right, John. Where can people follow you if they want to hear more about what's going on when your sports opinions and anything else as it updates and where you may land next after PHLY?
Yeah, I have some things in the works. I have some things cooking. So that's probably going to be coming up in the next couple of weeks. So you can just follow me at JONMARKS Media, at Jon Marks Media. And I do YouTube stuff on usually on Wednesday nights. So we're doing this on a Wednesday. So I'll probably be on YouTube later on. I'm also doing stuff for Bet Parks. I'm creating content for their app and putting bets out there and stuff like that. So just having a little bit of fun. But the easiest way is just Instagram, Twitter, MySpace, LinkedIn, at Jon Marks Media. That's how you can find me.
Great. Well, John, once again, thank you so much for taking the time out of your Wednesday evening to come by and talk about the Eagles.
Anytime, Joe. Let's do it again soon.
Absolutely. And thank you so much to everyone for tuning into the Bird's Nest podcast. You can support the Bird's Nest podcast by liking and subscribing to Bird's Nest Media right here on YouTube, as well as by sharing to your social media pages. You can also find us on SoundCloud, iTunes, Amazon Podcasts, Spotify, the Odyssey app, iHeartRadio, pretty much anywhere you get your podcasts. Please visit birdsnestmedia.com for additional Eagles and NFL coverage. And if you feel so inclined to support us in a different way, you can find a link to our Patreon in the description below or at birdsnestmedia.com. Thank you so much for tuning in, and let's go Eagles.